You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, let's go to Denver, where investigators have released findings in the fatal arrest of Elijah McClain. The findings criticize how they faulted police for the entire incident, including their quick, aggressive treatment of McClain, who would have turned 25 years old today. The investigation that was commissioned by the city of Aurora found two contrasting stories about what happened to McClain in August of 2019 after someone reported him as suspicious. One, based on officer statements to investigators, where police described a violent, relentless struggle. Another, based on body camera footage, in which McClain can be heard crying out in pain, apologizing, explaining himself, and pleading with the officers as they restrained him, applied pain compliance techniques, and sat or kneeled on him. City management is reviewing the findings to determine what the next step should be. As of right now, there are several other investigations into his death. The Colorado Attorney General's office is pursuing a criminal investigation. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment is investigating the use of ketamine, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, Department of Justice, and the FBI are all conducting a federal civil rights investigation. But the bottom line here, with all of that, Erica, he dead. Mama's in pain. Family's in pain. Cops have not been prosecuted. And so what we are probably going to likely find is, again, police killing another black man for no reason whatsoever other than being black. Same thing with the cops, with the grand jury declined to indict the cops in Rochester, New York. That particular case that came down a couple of days ago as well. Again, this becomes just repeated over and over and over again, the same reactions.
Yeah, as Reese just talked about, that precipitation of black trauma. This is something that has, we're used to, unfortunately, this hostility of law enforcement against the black body because of how they were birthed, right? They were birthed out of slave patrols. We've talked about that on this particular platform breathlessly. And until this institution, these taxpayer-funded servants, as they are supposed to operate, are actually held accountable, that they are no longer a death squad to the black body, killing black men, black women, accosting black children in our schools, putting a level of fear in black children that should be going to school to get their education and have a social aspect of school. Until that is scrapped, we will unfortunately continue to see this. You're thinking about Elijah McClain, and then we just had Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed not by police officers, but by somebody who did have some type of engagement with law enforcement here in just a year ago. And we're still awaiting justice for that particular case. So there has to be some level of responsibility that can be felt by those people who enter into agreements to protect and serve all people. Until that happens, until these police officers that dare take the life of a person, until they are held accountable. Unfortunately, I just read another story today of a black man that was gunned down unarmed by a police officer. This will continue to be a part of the book of Black life, and it has to cease.
It is certainly sad that that we're having to talk about today this particular story. Greg Carr, McClain should have been celebrating his 25th birthday.
Absolutely. Yesterday, the Secretary of State designee Anthony Blinken said that the United States is going to apply for readmission to the UN Human Rights Council. There are 3-year terms, and the United States is going to apply to be in one of the 3-year terms. I think the United States of America should be brought up on human rights abuses. When we see Brown versus Board of Education and the concessions, the legal concessions of the 1950s and 60s, a great deal of those concessions came because the United States was facing a changing world, the African independence movement, the Caribbean independence movement, Latin America, and they did not want to lose in the court of public opinion to Russia and China and other places. I think we make a mistake when we restrict our criticisms of these white nationalists who kill us with impunity we make a mistake when we appeal solely to the domestic tribunals at the local, state, and federal level. United States of America, as Malcolm X said in the 1960s, as Paul and Essie Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois and Shirley Graham Du Bois and William Patterson and Louise Thompson Patterson and many others said in the 1950s and 40s, should be brought up on charges in Geneva and in New York before the United Nations. So Secretary Blinken, yes, rejoin the UN Human Rights Council and save all the smoke you have for Cuba and Venezuela and protecting Israel. You save that smoke for the fact that the rest of us will now need to drag your naked country into the dock on the international level, whether you're signing a signatory of a human rights treaty or not, because you don't move in the United States until the world pays attention. That's an important thing I think we need to learn now, because there will be no justice. You can't bring him back to life at this point.
Reese, this is also why the pressure has to stay on, and also push the Department of Justice to be far more aggressive, which also means changing the laws to go after people for violating the civil rights of folks, and that's what we saw here.
Absolutely. I mean, the Department of Justice was a complete joke. Well, actually, it was doing what it was intended to do under the Trump white nationalist regime, which is to actually propagate white nationalism and abuse against black and brown bodies. But under the Biden-Harris administration, they do have some really solid people lined up, Vanita Gupta as well as Kristen Clark. Mm-hmm. But we see that they're the ones that are actually under attack by the Republicans in the Senate, even when it's a Merrick Garland hearing for Attorney General. And so I think this is one of the ways that the Republicans are kind of trying to obstruct and slow walk the progress that the Biden-Harris administration has in terms of the agenda for these consent decrees, for these investigations. But let's be honest, investigations do not bring back dead people, murdered people, lynched Black people. And so there has to be some sort of change. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is a part of that. And that's something that President Biden tweeted about today. He's looking forward to signing. It's coming up potentially in the Senate next week. I think it's coming up in the House next week as well. And so we'll have to see what happens with that. But the reality of it is that we have a structural issue in our society that does not value Black lives. We have people who appoint themselves slave patrols. So it's not even just a police officer, a law enforcement issue. It's people who feel like Black people are not full citizens and that they have a right to control our whereabouts, to oversee us. And when they feel threatened or when they perceive a threat, whether it's real or not, they have a right to take action against that. That's something that's not going to be solved by legislation or even the Department of Justice.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control